55 years ago, NASA took one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Today is the culmination of 4 months of small but important steps toward presenting our campaigns.
Similar to the buzz of excitement in a control room on launch day, we feel that same excitement this morning.
Welcome to our very own MojoAd launch day.
We will begin this morning by unveiling our secondary research.
This research brought our campaigns back down to earth when we got a little too starry-eyed to see the big picture.
We hope it connects the dots for you, creating a constellation to guide you through our 3 distinct campaigns that we will present later on.
But first, no mission is complete without its crew. Allow us to introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Caroline Schultz, and I'm the account manager for Team Chroma.
Hi, I'm Olivia Planger. I'm the account manager for Team Sonder.
And I'm Abigail Klapatowskis, and I'm the account manager for Team Chroma. Atlas. Collectively, we work for MojoAd. MojoAd is a full-service, student-led ad agency based at the Missouri School of Journalism.
We focus on the youth and young adult demographic of 18 to 24-year-olds, who we've affectionately nicknamed the Yaya Market.
In August, Laura and Dylan approached us with the unique task of building brand awareness and excitement among the Yaya audience for the Artemis campaign.
We analyzed over 150 unique sources in our secondary research, including academic journals from Duke and the University of Delaware, market reports from Intel, scientific studies, and more.
But enough about us, let's talk about you.
We know NASA as the space giant they have been since 1958.
And we especially connected with NASA's scientific mission, leveraging space exploration and collaboration to gain further knowledge on space.
This scientific mission statement hit home with us because of the scientific pillar of the Artemis campaign.
The Artemis campaign aims to reestablish a human presence on the moon for the first time since 1972.
And Artemis plans to make history by sending the first woman, person of color, and non-American partner to the moon. The mission will inspire the next generation by emphasizing space exploration is for everyone. No pressure.
We dug deep into information about NASA and Artemis through this research experience.
So much so we'd like to consider ourselves experts.
However, our real expertise lies in strategic communication and media.
We brought these skills to our analysis of NASA. We studied each historical era of your company to understand how space communication has evolved over time.
The space race and the first moon landing garnered earned media success while becoming a cultural phenomenon that still forms NASA perceptions.
The space shuttle era ushered in high-quality images and video while maintaining strong word-of-mouth and earned media attention.
The Space Hubble telescope redefined how humans viewed space, and images were shared across various media platforms.
The International Space Station began to lean on social media platforms and engage a global audience, making space more accessible.
Next, my favorite, OPI. The Mars Exploration and Curiosity rover built on those high-quality images and video and added more live streams and interactive content.
The ongoing Artemis era is utilizing CGI and immersive VR experiences that connects the Artemis campaign to broader themes like sustainability and diversity.
These distinct NASA eras bring us to the present.
With the Artemis campaign, NASA has the opportunity to leverage advanced visuals and interactive technology to engage with a tech-savvy, socially conscious audience.
The industry is witnessing key trends such as space tourism, sustainability, and increased reliance on funding from private sectors, with an overall air of commercialization.
These up-and-coming trends are brought forth by 2 categories of key players within the industry.
First, we have government space agencies. Russia's Roscosmos and China's CSNA are using their space programs for national security, economic opportunities, and scientific research.
The second category of key players are private companies.
Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, Boeing, and Virgin Galactic aim to revolutionize the space exploration with reusable technologies and ambitious missions beyond Earth.
These space CEOs are all over the headlines, and they are becoming the new face of space for youth and young adults.
So much so that, according to Forbes, the Yaya demographic is actually more likely to link billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson with space than older generations, who often associate astronauts with space.
These key leaders in the category are striving to occupy a commercial space in consumers' minds, but this contrasts greatly with NASA's goals for the Artemis campaign.
International collaboration is now central to space exploration, with global partnerships advancing human presence beyond Earth through shared missions like Artemis.
The expanding market of space exploration requires that major category leaders have their own distinct social media platforms that align with their correlated mission statements.
Category leaders are marketing eco-friendly initiatives. They want to bring more youth-oriented space programs to schools and prioritize sustainability because the Yaya market is committed to forging a greener future.
We see a gap for NASA to position themselves as both a source of education and entertainment,
AKA edutainment,
without focusing on selling a product.
Now that we have some context about NASA and the space industry, let's introduce the current space generation.
We found the profiles of people who love space are as vast and diverse as space itself.
And people use different lenses to explore their curiosity about space,
NASA,
and the human experience.
First, let me introduce our loyal space enthusiasts.
Current interest in space leans slightly masculine, according to Pew Research.
And according to the USAF School of Advanced Air and Space Studies, there's not a clear reason why women are less supportive of funding space exploration than men, or whether this gap is closing.
And according to Syracuse University, interest in space is positively correlated with people's level of science, education, and literacy.
Now, among people that are interested in space lies the science fiction fanatics who engage with space with their imagination.
With experiential events like Comic-Con and collector merchandise that predate social media, sci-fi fandoms have a physical presence and are accessible to brands in person.
Now, specific audience demographics vary, but the most iconic science fiction fandoms trend masculine.
Now we have a smaller cosmic cultural community who particularly love the stars.
Astrophiles use their awe of the stars to wonder about their place within the infinite universe.
And being an astrophile is a social media and dating profile identity.
Now that we have introduced you to the current space generation, let's see how space interacts with pop culture.
And it only seems fitting to start with movies.
Apart from footage from real space missions, movies are our only real depiction of space.
And research shows people who frequently watch movies and television will hold the same perspective of space as it's portrayed on the screen.
Space movies are most compelling when audiences feel connected to the characters, and the stories reflect our most innate human qualities.
We see these existential themes like the unknown, survival, and humanity in some of the best-selling space fiction books.
But Caroline, not all space pop culture tropes are so profound.
Space memes joke about the vast emptiness of space, challenges of space travel, and the space as the ultimate unknown. We joke about what we don't understand.
And now, at the intersection of NASA's history, public interpretation, and pop culture lie several iconic space tropes.
Some of these space tropes are more hopeful and may complement Artemis's inspiration,
Like the moon landing,
and the final frontier.
while other tropes are more negative and may threaten Artemis's narrative.
like Houston, we have a problem.
And space as a playground for the wealthy.
Now that we've covered space enthusiasts and space and pop culture, we need to address our audience.
Fitting in the middle of Generation Z are youth and young adults, ages 18 to 24.
As the most diverse generation yet, our Yaya market celebrates culture and embraces individuality.
And they are at a turning point in their lives
They're moving away from home,
Adulting for the first time.
and getting their first jobs.
Man, that sounds a lot like us.
But they are visionaries, forging their own paths.
their lives and futures were transformed when COVID hit during college and high school.
They are ready to make their own decisions about their finances, education, and lifestyles.
They are the first generation to grow up exclusively on social media.
And when they are not scrolling on their mobile devices, they're connecting with others through video games, video and music streaming, and movies, which are their top daily media activities.
They're today's activists.
And tomorrow's leaders.
They're the first students to grow up with active shooter drills, and they will face the consequences of climate change firsthand.
They demand action around LGBTQ+ and racial justice, and more than half expect brands to take an active stand on these social issues as well.
With this culmination of experiences affecting their future, our Yaya audience feels overwhelmed.
And despite their younger age and earlier career stage, Gen Z adults are just as stressed and exhausted by their jobs as more than tenured workers, according to Mintel.
With more than half facing anxiety diagnoses.
But they are resilient.
Our Yaya audience is curious yet skeptical. They're well educated on brands and their views.
When it comes to space, they are skeptical about private industry's involvement, and they are curious about NASA's private partnerships.
In general, they question the idea of monetizing the sky.
They're definitely curious about NASA, though, as the Yaya market is the second largest demographic driving web traffic to nasa.gov.
And our Yaya audience is innovative.
When it comes to search engines, Google takes a back seat to platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And this audience particularly leans towards social media for inspiration and influence.
Our Yaya audience is collaborative.
They trust NASA. They also believe that government space agencies should continue to be the leaders in the agency. And they are also supportive of NASA's prior collaborations.
Our Yaya audience and NASA are at a point where they are looking forward. Whether they are prioritizing their personal and career growth or planning a campaign to Mars, their futures are important.
Let's explore how NASA can meet them at this turning point in their lives.
NASA can humanize the agency for Yayas who feel overwhelmed and burnt out by showcasing how the agency prioritizes the personal well-being and balanced life of its workers.
NASA can capitalize on Yaya scrollers' media habits by utilizing short-form social content, streaming services like NASA Plus, and multi-device viewing experiences.
The Artemis campaign aligns with the Yaya market's value of diversifying historically white male fields.
And although Yaya consumers are less familiar with space than those that grew up in the Apollo era, 40% of their interest has increased related to space in the past year, according to the National Research Group. NASA can soothe the Yaya skeptics by showcasing how a future with Artemis is a stronger one.
Influencers directly impact Yaya consumers' purchasing habits. While we are not wanting to impact purchasing habits, we want to drive awareness, NASA can integrate the brand with influencers that Yaya scrollers already have their eyes on.
On social media, NASA can take advantage of edutainment content that captures this audience's attention.
Sponsored content is becoming less effective with this audience, as they prefer content that is personalized and interactive.
Through repeated media exposure, our Yaya audience is ready to be awed by space.
The Artemis campaign seeks to inspire a new generation of explorers, termed the Artemis generation.
Here at MojoAd, this generation already has a name.
The Yaya audience.
Now, let's hear from the Artemis generation in our primary research.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and listen to us speak about the survey data that we collected on the Yaya audience today. My name is Piper Molins.
I'm Grace Hagedorn.
And I'm Austin Williams.
And we are the quantitative strategists for Team Atlas, Chroma, and Sonder. Now, before we get into the findings of our survey, we'd like to run you through a brief overview of our methodology in collecting this data.
We created a 46-question survey using Qualtrics and chose to include no screeners outside of age, which required all respondents to be between the ages of 18 to 24.
We also created demographic quotas for race, ethnicity, and gender, which were proportional to U.S. Census data reports.
It is important to note that the week this survey was fielded, news broke of 2 NASA astronauts being unable to return to Earth from the International Space Station due to issues with their Starliner aircraft. This may have affected some responses on some questions.
Now that we've established our methods, let's move into what you've all been waiting for. A bunch of heady numbers about space that will terrify the journalism majors. When we were briefed by proud Mojo alum Dylan Connell, he said something that all of us remembered vividly.
Dylan told us that the mission is the message. We took this to heart and organized our findings into 4 key missions, showcasing our main discoveries.
We'll start with Mission 1, inspire the Yaya market to see NASA's value. Our first objective was to understand what motivates our Yaya market. This way we could align the values of NASA with those of our target audience.
We gave respondents a list of 12 personal values and asked them to select the top 3 values that they believed guided their actions the most.
The top 3 selected were adventure, courage, and curiosity, with adventure being selected in 38% of responses, courage being selected in 37% of responses, and curiosity being selected in 35% of responses.
After learning what values guide the lives of Yaya consumers, we also wanted to know what values they admire most in companies.
When asked what values do you admire most in a company, 48% of respondents valued creativity and 39% of respondents valued fairness.
When we cross-tabulated our respondents' most valued company attributes with their gender identity, we found that inclusivity ranked as the top choice for every gender demographic other than men, who selected at least among all options.
This lets us know that while creativity is undoubtedly key to our campaigns, inclusivity is a point that we can communicate to a demographic base with growing interest in STEM who may have been historically excluded.
Accessibility, education, and ethical came up behind creativity and fairness as people's third choices, with around 31% of respondents selecting each of these values.
You expressed concern over our age group's environmental values potentially causing us to be unenthusiastic about space travel. So, how does our generation feel about space exploration when faced with existential threats to the planet we live on? We have good news.
60% of our respondents said that they still see space as a final frontier rather than a final resort. Furthermore, when we asked them flat out whether or not they believe that space exploration helps or harms the environment, an overwhelming 70% of them said that they believe space exploration helps the environment, which lets us know that sustainability is not necessarily a value that will inhibit this age group from connecting with NASA.
Now that we've established the values of the Yaya market, let's move into how these values are communicated in their online activity.
Our survey shows that social media, streaming services, and video games dominate their online activities. By far, the two least selected options were reading and watching sports.
47% also said that they were interested in real-life space events like watching a meteor shower or looking at the stars. This lets us know that our respondents are also interested in interactive and immersive experiences.
Our respondents clearly showed us that there's an interest in these topics outside of just online platforms and that they are looking for more information. When it comes to their content, the Yaya market overwhelmingly preferred entertainment and educational media. Our data dispels the notion that appealing to the Yaya market must come at the expense of intellectual discourse and high-level information.
When watching content online, the most preferred genre was comedy. This aligns with our finding that the Yaya consumers want engaging and entertaining content. Comedy can bridge the gap between the more fun of entertainment and the more serious tone of education. This is an actionable insight that gives NASA a valuable way of reaching all kinds of Yaya consumers.
In terms of the specific modes of media consumption that our Yaya consumers prefer, 21% said they watch movies and TV shows, while 19% said they either play video games or watch online videos, which lets us know that storytelling could be another way to effectively bridge the gap between entertainment and education genres.
Similarly, their engagement with video games opens up the potential for communications to extend to virtual and augmented reality experiences that turn education into an interactive adventure.
We also wanted to investigate how our age group's passion for diversity pertained to NASA's communication strategy.
Overall, our primary research reflects our secondary research. 54% of our respondents either agreed or strongly agreed that they would like the government to fund initiatives to improve diversity in STEM.
When asked to complete the statement, the US government should fund blank, our top 3 responses included improving diversity in STEM, collaborating with other countries to create innovations in technology, and increasing humanity's access to the exploration of deep space.
Additionally, we found that Yaya consumers are already engaged online with space experts and educational figures. 62% follow content from science or space content creators such as Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and Hank Green.
When asked what the best form of a partnership between a college or university and NASA would be, our respondents told us they were looking for 2 things. 26% answered internship programs, and another 25% told us science and technology competitions.
This tells us that Yaya consumers want interactive experiences with NASA and Artemis. 18 to 24-year-olds are curious and want to engage experientially with the NASA brand. In fact, 63% wish they knew more about space. So why aren't all 63% of those interested in space engaging with NASA?
We attempted to find out by asking about barriers that may be preventing Yaya consumers from engaging with space-related content. When asked what stops them from consuming space-related content, 21% cited a lack of time, while 19% were unsure where to find it.
This highlights a crucial opportunity for NASA to streamline access to their content to make it overall easier to find. It also lets us know that short-form content will be the best way to lead the Yaya market into long-form, more in-depth information.
Some other barriers are more complex. For example, 35% of respondents don't share space content with friends because they feel isolated in their interest. This disconnect suggests that while Yaya consumers do crave this knowledge, social factors may play a role in their levels of engagement. When asked what would make complex scientific topics more understandable, Yaya consumers pointed to visual aids and real-world applications. This is a complex scientific discovery that we found that shows that visual and useful content would appeal to the NASA audiences.
By understanding these barriers, NASA has an opportunity to create content that reaches every bit of the Yaya market who wants to engage with the brand. Leveraging humor, real-world applications, and visual storytelling, we can address these gaps in the Yaya consumer base.
Now onto our last mission, engaging the Artemis generation. The Artemis campaign is many things.
An exciting journey to the far side of the moon.
A complex scientific endeavor.
The most diverse mission in NASA's history.
So, what is Artemis? Which parts of the mission should we emphasize, and what's going to excite the Yaya demographic?
According to our survey, the Yaya market is keeping its eyes on Mars. When we asked them to prioritize the goals and objectives of the Artemis mission, an overwhelming percent of them said that they would rather put the first humans on Mars even above scientific discoveries and advancements.
In order to find out more about what the Artemis generation already knows and thinks about Artemis, we had them watch the following NASA-produced video that describes the goals of the mission at the end of the survey.
It's a new day in space exploration. As we sail on this new cosmic sea, there's so much to learn. There's so much to be excited about.
Artemis is different from anything humanity has ever embarked on before. And we will discover life-saving, earth-changing science and technology along the way.
We're delving deep into what science can be achieved by humans working together with robotic capabilities and future infrastructure to support a long-term human presence at the moon.
The Artemis generation stands ready to return humanity to the moon and then to take us further than ever before to Mars. Onward and upward.
Respondents were instructed to give a one-word description about how they feel about Artemis after watching the video. Here we have a word cloud that shows the most common responses. The majority of respondents chose positive words such as inspired, excited, good, and interested. However, on a smaller scale, some respondents did say it made them feel anxious, nervous, scared, or unimpressed.
This lets us know that overall, our generation has a positive perception of the Artemis campaign. It also tells us that some may be intimidated by the hard sciences or need their interest sparked to leave a lasting impression. Now, at a baseline, our respondents told us they knew 3 things about the Artemis campaign already.
33% of respondents chose the option sending humans to Mars. This tells us that whatever communications have already been done, the goal of getting to Mars is the one that resonated the most with Yaya astrophiles and which they found the most notable.
Their other answers are revealing as well. The next most commonly chosen description of the goals of Artemis, which 29% chose, was conducting scientific experiments for the benefit of all. Concerningly, a similar number of people chose a fake answer we made up, which was helping the US beat China in a space race to Mars. The final answer respondents picked most often was unsure of the goals of Artemis.
This highlights a critical awareness gap among our respondents about the true goals and objectives of the Artemis campaign.
Now, just in case we lost you somewhere in the numbers, we want to reiterate a few key opportunities that NASA could capitalize on based on our research.
Our first opportunity is to emphasize the values of creativity, inclusivity, fairness, and innovation, which proved to be essential in garnering the attention of this age group.
Our next opportunity is to lean away from national posturing and into international collaboration messaging.
Our third opportunity is to focus on positive scientific discoveries helping Earth and consumers.
Our fourth opportunity is in primarily using video formats with a lighthearted, educational, and entertaining approach, which proved to be essential to reaching Yaya consumers.
Our next opportunity is to prioritize interactive and experiential partnerships.
And our last opportunity is to keep communication centered on the long-term goals and impacts of the Artemis campaign.
You'll now be hearing from our brilliant qualitative strategists on the insights that drove our campaigns, which our agency will unveil later today. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to take you on a journey, not to outer space yet, but inside the minds of our Yaya consumers. We're going to take a look at our qualitative findings and evaluate perceptions ages 18 to 24 have on NASA, space exploration, and Artemis. I'm Noah.
I'm Gracie.
And I'm Audrey. First, we'll set the stage. Our research objectives were to understand Yaya individuals' attitudes toward and interest in space exploration.
Identify barriers and frustrations they experience when consuming space-related content.
Identify Yaya consumers' perceptions of NASA.
and determine Yaya's awareness of the Artemis campaign and the associated benefits to science, technology, the environment, and humanity.
We'll walk you through our methodology, our key takeaways, and our 4 major insights drawn from this study.
Together, we conducted 30 in-depth and paired depth interviews. We gave a preference to participants who already had an interest in space exploration.
Our participants were sourced from DC and 12 states across the US.
Our 6 discussion topics we focused on included values, lifestyle, role of learning, relationship with space, NASA and Artemis knowledge, and Artemis reactions. Let's dive into our key takeaways.
First, participants told us that family is a cornerstone in their lives. We asked them what their North Star is, meaning what they're always working toward or keeping in the back of their minds. They told us they want to make their families proud and achieve milestones, as well as build a good life and family of their own one day.
Another core value we heard was centered around setting their future selves and families up for success. To achieve this, participants told us they were focused on their short-term goals, which they view as stepping stones to a life of happiness and comfort.
They want to do well in school, get a job, settle down, and have a family. The short term feels easy, while long term feels ultimately unreachable.
Beyond serving as a vehicle to support their families, their careers are ways to help people too. They want to be proud of the lives they lead and understand that life can be difficult for others.
For example, participant 5 told us, I want to feel like I make a difference, so I'd like to use my law degree to help people. It's more important to me that I make other people's lives better than I make a bunch of money through law.
They want to make a positive impact on the world, seeking to use their talents and time to help those around them.
These driven individuals also told us they are lifelong learners, from career knowledge to hobbies. Whether they're staying up to date with the latest knowledge in their field or nerding out on their interests, participants have an innate curiosity and shared value of continuous learning. They want to understand the world around them and beyond.
But in this life stage, participants have to find their own ways to engage with and learn about what they're passionate about.
Thankfully, we found that participants hold growth mindsets and view space as an opportunity. Space is humanity's natural next step in exploration.
But let's face it, science is hard. Whether it's elementary school basics or upper-level physics, participants viewed science-related topics as a significant challenge, preventing them from fully understanding or meaningfully engaging with space through the scientific lens.
This didn't necessarily apply to our participants who were majoring in STEM, who were unsurprisingly more interested in the technical aspects of space exploration, but rather this challenge applied to our participants who had a more general interest in space exploration.
They equate their space interests to hobbies, connecting their foundations of learning with aesthetic imagery and memories with loved ones.
Though not everybody tapped into the scientific side, the general consensus for the media they do interact with was amazed and awed.
They've watched inspiring movies like The Martian and Hidden Figures. Many participants told us they loved the human achievement aspect of these movies, from the mind-blowing innovation to the emotional significance of making history. These pieces of media also provided a source of connection for participants, both with the characters in the film and the people they watched it with.
Their pop culture references tapped into their childhood memories as well. They remember watching programs like PBS Kids and reading books like The Magic Treehouse.
They also equated their foundation of knowledge and curiosity about space as being built in childhood, when learning about space was both exciting and frequent. This type of hype and excitement around learning is exactly what they're chasing in adulthood.
For example, participant 10 said, I like learning about space in grade school in particular. I remember we always had a lot of physical, hands-on activities with the planets.
During childhood, they perceived space exploration and astronauts in a fictional, almost heroic way.
Participant 23 told us, I remember dressing up as an astronaut one year for Halloween. It was one of those things that seemed larger than life, like a hero's job.
But they also told us they respect real-life NASA employees too.
Participant 22 said, I find it inspiring that people are willing to go into the virtually unknown and put their trust into mathematicians and scientists who have researched the ship they're on and the area they're exploring.
This change in attitude was also reflected in our projective exercises, aimed at revealing top-of-mind associations. We asked our participants to fill in the blank. People who work at NASA are blank. People who work at NASA look like blank.
Let's look at some of the words they used. You'll see words like brilliant, revolutionary, and smart, as well as engineer and scientist.
They're inspired by their intelligence and by their bravery to go where no one has gone before.
All participants had memories related to space, and almost all of those memories involved another person. They connect their associations of space with fond memories and moments of connection with other people.
Moments of watching eclipses, looking through telescopes, and entering the world of NASA-related movies brought participants and significant people in their lives together.
Participant 7 shared a story of how he remembers stargazing with his dad. He remembers looking up into the vast night sky with a sense of wonder.
Stargazing specifically was a common space-related memory participants relayed.
For example, participant 19 said, I love to look at the stars. It brings on memories. I used to go to my grandma and grandpa's house in the country, and we would just lay out and look for shooting stars and meteor showers.
Many others echoed that love of looking up. Some said that it made them feel spiritual, while others said it made them feel blissfully small in comparison to the vast universe.
Remember, this crew puts a lot of pressure on themselves to succeed, achieve milestones, and make their families proud.
Because of this pressure, participants seek a sense of stability in everyday life, like finding perspective in the enormousness of the night sky. Their problems shrink in comparison to the big undiscovered universe.
Participant 20 shared, "I love looking at the night sky. I kind of feel insignificant, but in the best way. Sometimes it's nice to center yourself and remember that you're just a small individual in this large cosmos. Your struggles may seem super big, but it's just like, it will pass. It's okay."
With Earth as the center for all life and learning, participants expressed love and awe for our planet too. Their growth mindsets and hunger for continuous learning make them appreciate living in a place with so much to learn, discover, and explore.
For example, participant 19 said, "My upbringing makes me think about how much of a privilege it is to be able to learn. I'm a first-generation college student, and that's really cool. I just always think about how lucky I am to be able to learn."
Because they love the Earth, they also care about its future. Participants told us they think space exploration is worth it, and many said that they thought it was essential. But regardless, they all shared a concern for the future of the planet.
Many of our participants told us they worry that advancing space exploration will lead to humanity abandoning Earth, or otherwise encourage individuals to neglect environmental initiatives or other issues on our planet.
In particular, they're worried about the private space industry harming environmental efforts for the sake of corporate gain. For example, participant 24 said, "People either view it as a billionaire's playground or question why we're wasting money that we could be focusing here on Earth."
On the other hand, some shared their excitement for the innovation spurred by the private sector.
They're all in on the collaborative aspects too and celebrate that NASA can get more done with additional investment and collaborative innovation.
We also learned that participants view NASA as a truthful and unbiased source of information. In their everyday learning, they seek out narratives that are free from politicized view and bias.
They value a variety of sources, prioritizing peer-reviewed and academic backgrounds.
This is another reason for NASA to remain transparent about space exploration and topics like the private industry collaboration. NASA's good reputation will continue to lend Artemis credibility, even from those who worry for the Earth.
Those who do keep up to date with current communications respect and trust them. However, even this group feels out of the loop with NASA's plans for the future.
Many of our participants, even space-interested ones, told us that they rarely see NASA online.
So while our participants told us everybody knows NASA, many of them also told us they had never heard of Artemis or didn't understand its purpose.
They don't know what's coming next or why it's significant for humanity's gain.
But we described it to them, and they were excited.
We described the stages of the Artemis campaign, the exciting first to come through Artemis, and all the ways that previous space exploration has led to technologies they use every day here on Earth.
They were excited to learn more about Artemis and stay up to date with current news.
Putting humans on Mars for the first time deeply resonated with our audience, but also presented a new challenge, the timetable that they can expect.
Many participants told us they don't expect humanity can reach Mars within their lifetime, or if so, it won't be for decades at least.
For example, participant 8 said, "I'm not really sure what information we know about living on Mars yet, but with my biases, that's something I don't really see happening during my lifetime."
Don't worry, this is not an issue of interest, but rather an issue of reaching them. So that begs the question, how can NASA reach our target audience?
Many of our participants told us they have short attention spans and would best connect with NASA through short-form video content on platforms like Instagram and TikTok.
Some express interest in more in-depth learning on platforms like YouTube. Participants did explain that articles and emails are less likely to grab their attention, especially without the use of attention-grabbing images.
They told us that they're interested in things that will affect their everyday lives, like innovation.
For example, participant 7 said NASA should explain how it's going to affect day-to-day life here, how the Artemis project can advance our technologies that we use here on a day-to-day basis, not just out in space.
It is clearly important to engage these consumers with something that is current and relevant to them.
They want to get to know our NASA Artemis professionals even more.
For example, participant 10 told us that personalizing the campaign would make it more meaningful. During the Apollo era, she said, people knew the astronauts through pop culture and kept up with their lives as they prepared to reach the moon. That emotional attachment built investment. And today, she feels disconnected from NASA.
Another example, participant 4 said, "I feel like when you talk about a huge company like NASA, it's hard for the everyday person to connect with. But when you're looking at it from an individual level, it's like, oh, they're just people, you know?"
Our participants told us that they would consume things like day-in-the-life videos. They want to see the behind the scenes of NASA.
Participants also emphasized the importance of constant updates, even if the task is unsuccessful. Participant 25 told us that finding out something doesn't work is just as important as finding out that it does. This brings back the idea of transparency and keeping people in the loop as they watch Artemis unfold.
Okay, With all of this, we want to touch on one key projective exercise, results of which we found incredibly promising. With this exercise, we asked participants to write a eulogy to space exploration, assuming it had quote-unquote died. The goal was to get them to articulate their level of awareness of the benefit of space exploration, as well as identify the aspects that resonate most deeply with them. This was one of the most inspiring responses we heard. Let's give it a listen.
Space exploration represents something at the core of humanity. It represents our innate curiosity, our desire to know and conquer the unknown. Those primal feelings that drive humans, that drove us from the caves to fire to modern civilization. Space exploration may be the pinnacle of what humanity strives to be. So much unexplored ground to cover, so much to learn about and investigate. When we lose space travel, we lose something to the core of ourselves. We no longer have the same drive to overcome obstacles and confront the unknown. We are a lesser version of ourselves. We also lose some of the most important and powerful bonds across humanity. Space travel has united countries. It creates cross-cultural collaboration in ways we almost never see. It represents the best of who we can be. Without space travel, the world is simply a smaller place.
That wraps up our key takeaways. Let's jump into our 4 major insights that we found.
Insight number 1, explore the universe, feel grounded. The vastness of the universe serves as a counterbalance to the pressures Yaya individuals face in their day-to-day life. By framing space as both an escape and a source of inner peace, we can emphasize how the universe offers a unique sense of perspective.
Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the immensity, Yayas can find serenity in their smallness and be inspired to push forward. When they encounter obstacles, they'll know that Artemis is bigger than all of those issues, and it can bring them peace.
This insight leverages sight, sound, and immersive storytelling to ground Yaya consumers in the moment. It expands their understanding of the universe and Artemis's role within it.
Ultimately, when consumers come across this content, they will experience a moment of respite.
Insight number 2. The universe is vast, but it draws us closer together. Space is more than science. It's a connection to treasured memories and shared moments. We'll highlight how space evokes a deep bond with special people in our lives. Moments of, stargazing with family or a first date under the stars, entering the world of NASA-related movies. These moments create emotional resonance.
Campaigns using this insight will have the opportunity to connect individuals in a way that transcends generations while still resonating with them in their current world.
Space transcends, space connects with everyone regardless of backgrounds or interest. Yaya consumers have an interest and curiosity about space, and they want to share that with others.
When consumers come across our content, they'll feel warm, fuzzy, and hopeful.
Insight number 3. It's not simple, but it's not rocket science. Participants who remember enjoying hands-on and interactive activities as kids now feel bogged down and stressed out. Learning science as adults is hard.
We want to bring back the twinkle in their eye about space-related concepts by embracing humor and acknowledging the frustration of information overload.
Let's show Yayas that while the work NASA does is far from simple, there is plenty of knowledge within their grasp.
Ultimately, when consumers come across this insight, they will laugh and share it with a friend.
Last but not least, insight number 4, the next frontier is no longer fiction. Artemis professionals are our modern heroes. Pop culture serves as the perfect gateway for Yaya consumers to engage with complicated space concepts. Just like in the movies where anything is possible, space is full of boundless potential. NASA is bridging the gap between the fantastical and the real.
We'll frame NASA employees as the real-life heroes Yayas are searching for, modern explorers charting new frontiers.
NASA can become the new Marvel. Their heroes have backstories, amazing abilities, and snazzy outfits.
Ultimately, when consumers come across this content, we want to give them hope and that feeling of, this is so cool.
That wraps up our 4 insights. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. I'd like to invite the other presenters back up to the stage for a quick Q&A session. Feel free to jump in and fire away.
Okay, we will now begin the Q&A session, and we'll start it off with Dylan.
Great job, guys. That was awesome. And I'm kind of losing my voice, if you couldn't tell, so I'll try to keep it brief. Who is doing humor really well?
Who is doing humor really well? Like what brands? I would say brands like Wendy's and companies like that connect with their audience on social media using humorous trends that kind of change as the trends change. I think those are connecting really well with Yaya consumers and encouraging them both to be aware of things like their promotions as well as go in store and purchase.
I think another example of this is Duolingo, which I think we're all probably familiar with. They've kind of created this joke around their mascot, and people have been interacting with this a lot, and I think that's where a lot of that humor lies, is in the brand connecting and interacting with its audience, and not just through posts, but there's that other level that adds to it.
We've also found that humor has kind of evolved. While memes are still relevant to our generation, it's kind of evolved to short form video content as well. That's where a lot of humor lives for our generation.
Is there a brand that does the short form really well?
TikTok, but
well, but an actual brand that actually does short form. My favorite is Barbie.
As far as our NASA competition, as far as private partnerships, we found that their social media brands are nearly identical. None are incredibly comedic, and the imagery is kind of difficult to distinguish between each of the brands, so they are not doing comedy well, I would say.
First of all, I want to say, wow, this was super impressive. I am awed by the work that you guys accomplished over the course of the semester. Artemis is huge and complex, and you guys did a fantastic job really grasping and understanding it. So thank you for your efforts. So I had a couple of questions. I believe the first group in the beginning, when you were talking about some of the different organizations that you had researched, I think I saw at least one other governmental agency on that slide. I'm curious, did you find any insights through your research from other government agencies of things that they are doing well to engage the Yaya generation that NASA could learn from?
Are you referring to the government space agencies?
Or just other government agencies in general?
Gotcha, yeah. I would say that what we kind of found was that the government agencies aligned very much so with like the geopolitical goals of their own country. So there was a little bit less creativity kind of in that. But I think some of the more private companies have really developed like distinguished social media presences that kind of are very specific to their brands, have very kind of specific looks. And yeah, I think that's an opportunity that NASA can tap into as well, for sure.
Great, thank you. I have one more. Do you want? Okay. And then the other thing that really stuck out to me was the comments that you guys made, the findings you had on immersive experiences. Are there examples of brands that are doing that well that you can also provide as an example?
One thing that comes to mind for me is like Spotify even. When artists release songs or albums or whatnot, they have interactive in-person experiences where listeners can listen to that new music for the first time, interact with others that share that same passion. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Another thing that comes to mind for me a lot is, I don't know if you've seen online, like the Van Gogh and Frida Kahlo and like the art exhibits that are kind of immersive. It uses projections on screens, and people love to go in those and, post like a picture of themselves kind of in that immersive world on Instagram because it's kind of aesthetically pleasing and on their feeds it looks good. So that's another thing that I think has become kind of more popular and is not necessarily associated with one specific brand, but is something that is kind of trending right now as an immersive experience.
Another great experience that came up over and over again in our interviews was the solar eclipse. Just handing out those paper glasses across the country brought everyone together, and that was a great and successful experience, and it brought the attention to the skies, which is challenging sometimes.
If only we could control when those happen.
Is anyone online? No questions. Okay. I have one more question. One of the slides toward the end, I saw the word fairness, which is not a word I've typically seen associated with brand values. Could you give me more insight into how you define fairness and how NASA would convey fairness to the public?
I think one of the challenges that you proposed to us about expanding the image of astronauts from the white straight male stepping foot on the moon, I think that's a big issue for our generation, and it kind of resonated with a lot of our participants. In our interviews, kind of like what we said, we described Artemis and we described the campaign and the goals. And when we asked them to repeat back to us what stood out to them, they kept on coming back to that issue of putting the first woman on the moon and stuff like that. So they want an equal playing field, and they want a fair chance to go to where no one has gone before.
So it sounds like they support NASA going forward and saying we are going to put a woman on the moon.
100%.
Okay, thank you for the Q&A session. You are officially relieved of your duties for research, and we can move on to the team presentations. We will take a short recess until 8:55 a.m. to be exact, and then we will come back with Team Chroma. Thank you.